Finally, a topic where I can just hide in my Wikipedia brand bunker and not cite anything. Now I just need to actually write something about it. Oh, I know. I'll just go out the first results from Google, Bing, and DuckDuckGo and use that information. What could go wrong? Oh, mierda, nicht weiter.
The story will continue after this.
The Wikipedia Community, better known colloquially as Wikipedians, formed with the creation of the website in 2001. Seen by many, including myself, as super smart people who know too many things about the most random subjects, the Wikipedia community has received the mantle of scribes of the current age. It's something they're pretty proud of. I mean, who else can say that they're working to preserve information digitally for the public and for free? Both in a sense of volunteerism and free knowledge. Because after all, knowledge used to cost a lot more. To make this short, encyclopedias and the human collection of knowledge have been around since ancient Babylon, and some of the first encyclopedias we actually have are dated all the way back to Roman times. Many were created to catalog and hold general knowledge information, such as historical figures, philosophical teachings, definitions of complex things, and maps. Chinese kingdoms, the Persians, Indians, and Christian Europeans had compiled their respective information in handwritten form, as it would not be until the 1700s when we got the first mass-printed encyclopedias. The more household names that we know and love today, like Britannica and Brauhaus, came about in the 18th century, with an increased craze of thirsting for knowledge and a little-known fad called the Enlightenment. It's where we get those books that started building collections on the walls of hipsters, professors, and book nerds alike, and for the next 2 centuries, you had to pay for your knowledge like everyone else. This is where we see a problem with knowledge being hidden behind a paywall. Well, that's not good. How else am I supposed to learn about my great-great-granduncle's exploits as dictator of Rockall, or even the required information to become a very model of a modern major general? Well, I could use this little-known thing I've only used for hobbyist chat rooms called the internet. Nah, that'll never take off.
But it did take off. Hello, children. I'm Pop-a-Squat Scott. You won't see me after this bit.
With the rise of the great and powerful internet, it only seemed right that sites would come into the picture that were more dedicated to the preservation of knowledge. Now, this may come as a shock to people younger than
insert year here.
But there were other online encyclopedias before Wikipedia. Started in 1998, Everything One was one of the first sites to grace the internet with the coveted information we oh so dearly needed. Now, there were digitization efforts earlier by some of the big names. Britannica did start using the web in 1994, but their site was behind a paywall. Another online encyclopedia, Interpedia, was proposed to be a free database, but it did not make it past the conceptual phase. Some other sites that popped up around this time included GNE, OpenSite, and Nupedia. And several creators and contributors of these early and online encyclopedias merged like a giant Gundam in 2001 to create Wikipedia, with articles ranging from Atlas Shrugged to Zizek's Road. They even have the complete works of Gilbert and Sullivan summarized here.
Yes, I am a Major General.
Of course, the history of Wikipedia doesn't stop with me making yet another comic opera reference. It all began, much like this channel, with a college student in the Midwest. Originally from Alabama, Jimmy Wales studied finance at Auburn before moving on to the universities of Alabama and then Indiana for a master's degree. He did not receive a PhD in finance, despite being gifted in the subject, because he saw the writing of a doctoral dissertation as boring. In 1996, Wales and 2 partners founded Bomis, which, while trying to find its voice, became a site focused on what Wales described as guy-oriented content, so sports, cars, and NSFW. After the failure of Bomis, Wales would move on to starting an online encyclopedia with philosophy student Larry Sanger. Nupedia, as it would be called, was created to be a peer-reviewed and free content encyclopedia, with advertising covering the cost. After being uncomfortable with the model behind Nupedia, Wales would set his sights elsewhere. Through Ben Kovitz, Wales was introduced to the wiki model of websites, which would allow users to simultaneously work on articles, allowing for better ease of access. In 2001, the collective, open-source encyclopedia would take off, amassing more articles than Nupedia had in a shorter time frame. Which is understandable, as a handful of the editors and contributors from Nupedia migrated with Wales to help start up this new site. Its first message, in a nod to programming, was "Hello World," which would be replaced with a more formal homepage later that year. Now, just to save us all some time, here's a rundown of important events in the last 2 decades of Wikipedia. In less than a decade, Wikipedia became the internet's version of the Library of Alexandria, with all the good knowledge stored inside and safe from fires. Nowadays, it remains as such, a bastion of information for college students and curious internet explorers wanting to waste some time getting lost in the words. But who specifically built up this new Library of Alexandria? That's an easy answer. Volunteers. Or as I lovingly call them, those nerds. People who contribute even one article or edit to Wikipedia to help preserve more knowledge in the world. They come from a variety of backgrounds, with many getting secondary or higher education, have too many reasons for joining the Wikipedia community. It's a noble and time-consuming task. But why do these nerds do it? With only 500-ish employees for Wikipedia, most information comes from internet people, so it makes sense that they rely heavily on volunteers. In a survey from 2010, 68% of contributors cited wanting to fix errors they saw in articles as the beginnings of them editing for Wikipedia. Others liked the idea of cooperation and collaboration for the pursuit of knowledge, which was a response of 73% of all contributors. Similar answers were given in the results, but what showed more than anything was the will to do something for the betterment of a subject and to help your fellow humans with their pursuit of information that is not locked behind a paywall. The pursuit of free knowledge is something common among users of the internet. For centuries, only the learned and wealthy could access coveted information that may seem trivial to us nowadays. It's the idea of creating and maintaining an encyclopedia for the common man that motivates many in the Wikimedia community. So much so that there's even been a monument dedicated to them in Poland and the allotment of the Erasmus Prize, in the name of contributing to society, culture, or social science, to the entire community in 2015. This shows that there does not need to be a monetary motivation behind the spread of information. Only that there are people willing to teach and inform where needed. And you know what? It's something the anarchist in me is all too happy about. That being said, many contributors and readers of Wikipedia experience this free knowledge to an extent, as Wikipedia does run on donations. But the idea is still there, and it has influenced other encyclopedias to follow suit and make access to the information free. It may have only taken a decade since the internet took off, but general knowledge is now, well, generally available knowledge. But if general knowledge isn't your forte, there are other wikis that exist for almost everything else. Video games, television shows, fan cultures, and even some subcultures and fields of study. All maintained by armies of eager knowledge hoarders and their countless servers. Wikis themselves have been around since the internet began, and the communities around them share the same drive that Wikipedians have, with many editing each day and every day in over 200 languages. Even wikis for smaller niches can be seen to have a lot of depth and care taken to preserve the knowledge behind them. I mean, I could just get lost in the amount of effort from small communities on the internet and what they've done with their collective free times. If I could say more of these nerds, it'd be that they are... Oh, okay. Well, I just got a statement from the quota department. Seems I hit my limit on praise. We gotta talk criticism now. Not surprising to anyone, much of the Wikipedia community are men, creating a bit of a demographic bias and impossible norms for somewhat reprehensible behavior if left unchecked. But criticism is criticism. They are a very well-moderated group, aside from a few shitpost and edit wars on random articles, and in recent years there has been an increase in the amount of women working in the knowledge mines, but only by about 3%. There has been an uptick in recent years both within the community and by third parties to increase the presence of women on Wikipedia, not just in the editing areas. Only about 20% of the articles that are biographical are about women. Through the creation of support groups and other applications, they're hoping to raise that number. There also seems to be a consensus among people right of center that Wikipedians have a more left-leaning bias. Which makes sense, because free knowledge isn't usually lauded by conservatives and authoritarians who view many of the editors and contributors to Wikipedia as having a predominantly left-leaning bias. Conversely, many liberal and anarchist ideologues have also seen Wikipedia as biased towards nationalities and companies while glossing over the empirical facts. So it's sort of a everyone hates you for different reasons thing. There are two big cases of political, and somewhat cultural, bias taking over parts of the Wikipedia community we found in our research. Starting back in 2013, journalists found that a small group of conservative-leaning administrators were blocking liberalist edits made to the Hrvatski Wikipedia. They covered up or completely removed articles covering LGBT, Serbs in Croatia, and various other things that did not fit the bill of maintaining a positive national image. So much so that they would go to the length of harassing and banning editors who tried to remove the obvious bias. And to briefly touch on this, the same people, in the name of national pride, covered over actions taken by the Ustashi regime of the 1940s. Something we'll see as well in our next subject. Discussed in a 2021 article in Slate, the Japanese language Wikipedia showed misinformation about atrocities committed by the nation in World War II, including the rape of Nanking, Unit 731, and Comfort Woman. Users who tried to fix these rephrasings were met with account bans. A bit of a cultural footnote here, a lot of Eastern cultures, Japan included, try not to have discourse openly in public, and the internet is no exception to this standard. One can lump on, as well, the concept of face with these rephrasings. allowing the Japanese users of the site to understand that these things did happen, but were not as bad, even though they were, as the West paints it. A bit of a cultural can of worms there, so let's just gloss over it like Japanese Wikipedia did to their wartime atrocities. As you can see, there is a soft kind of power complex seen of recording history online. If left unchecked, it leads to misinformation that matches the consensus becoming the standard, as we saw in these last two cases. As pointed out by Times journalists in 2007, Wikipedia has fallen into seeking more of a consensus rather than any absolute truth. The name of the game, as has been pointed out by several users, is to tire the enemy out, allowing the loudest and most persistent voice to win. Seeing as so, if there is a common misconception that is known as fake by a handful of people, with sufficient evidence, they will be shut down continuously until there is no motivation to fix this mistake. It's a reason why, and I don't know if they still do this nowadays, high school teachers will say not to use Wikipedia as a source. Because the people who write those articles are human, and they fall greatly into the biases and common pitfalls of knowledge. While I could go on to talk about the cultural implications behind both Croatian and Japanese Wikipedias, or even the concept of digital Maoism we came across in our hive mind research, I'll do something we encourage our viewers to always do: their own research. Links will be in a source document, which itself is in the description. And there you have it. That's the Wikipedia community, a subculture of scribes in this modern world, maintaining the internet's Library of Alexandria. Let's hope for
I am the very model of a modern Major General. Life, information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England and decode the fights historical, from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical. I am very well acquainted too with matters mathematical. I understand equations both the simple and quadratical. About polynomial theorem I am teeming with a lot of news. With many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse. Many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse. Many cheerful facts about the